So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
These are uncertain times. They will not become more certain. Our students are facing remarkable change. The disruption of established industries is creating environments that it's very difficult to prepare them for. Ideas and Trends is intended to help them become more comfortable working in an uncertain environment.
Throughout these past 2 semesters, our Ideas and Trends team has faced many trials and tribulations, just concerning predicting future events and seeing what the future will entail. These are the phases of development that our group went throughout the past 2 semesters, as well as the great learning that occurred along the way.
I remember on the first day when we got posed the question, I just remember feeling so overwhelmed.
When Professor Shannon asked us what we thought the future would look like in 10 years, we all had no idea what to do.
We were essentially asked to predict the future. No one really had any idea where to go.
Everyone had a blank reaction, and we kind of just stared at each other.
My first thought was, is this even possible? Probably not.
How am I supposed to predict what's supposed to happen in 10 years if I don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow?
It wasn't that I didn't have faith in our class, but it just seemed like that day was so far off.
When we first got the project, we all kind of looked at it and said, this is like a normal school project. So we took a very presentation-based approach. Group projects were the best way we thought to get our points across.
So after we had some sort of idea what the objective of our time was, we decided to split off into groups.
We were divided into groups of 2 to 3 people, generally to diversify the many topics we were going to discuss in looking into the future.
We threw around ideas for a couple of days. The reason it took so long is because we wanted to really make sure that whatever topic we chose, that it was of interest to us.
When we first started presenting our presentations to the class, Professor Shannon would question us a lot and ask us why, and pushed us and pushed us.
After getting grilled by Professor Shannon, we all realized that we weren't looking as deep as we needed to into the project.
The presentations initially did not go well. We started out using a lot of biased sources, some stuff people easily took from their own dinner table, and were really spewing their own opinions.
So we had to take another look and step back and try something else.
How are we supposed to solve a problem when we didn't know what the problem was to begin with?
The hardest part of the researching process was actually identifying future problems and trying to develop future solutions for these problems.
We realized that we didn't really know as much about our topics as we thought we did.
What the group did at the beginning of the process was research problems that were afflicting the global community now, and trying to apply solutions to these problems that would be developed in the near future, things that were feasible. But the group didn't start moving forward until we realized that these weren't the problems we should be identifying and these weren't the solutions we should be implementing.
We started to move on from solutions to problems that we didn't know about.
We needed to take what's existing in the present and use that as a jumping off point to try to figure out what problems would be plaguing society in the future.
We started using credible sources like the Institute for the Future to get us solid facts instead of using what we just thought was common knowledge.
Research was an eye-opening experience for all of us.
This phase allowed us to see the integration of all topics and how a small change in one area might create a large change in another area or industry.
The second set of presentations were much more organized. They had a better sense of direction and a lot more purpose to it.
Getting new information, developing new sources, and using these sources to better develop the presentations themselves so they'd be more useful to the audience.
It was a much more unified team effort, and it really showed us how our topics were related to each other.
We focused on delivering them in a way that we could use the information group to group, see the interconnection between the different groups.
This allowed us to realize that the world is getting smaller and smaller, and thanks to technological innovations that have occurred within the past 10 to 15 years, these changes are going to happen more rapidly, and they're going to grow larger as the future comes.
We started using mind mapping because we realized that we were just a bunch of individual groups working by ourselves, but we didn't really come together and focus our ideas.
Our team finally was able to put everything on a concrete image, and we were able to finally start developing the connections between all of our different ideas.
And we all logged onto it, and it brought us to a web, and basically the web shows us our ideas, and we can use arrows and lines to draw what our ideas connected with certain other topics such as China or agriculture or energy.
The mind mapping software had mixed results. On one hand, it was disorganized and a little cluttered due to the amount of information we had, but on another hand, it was the first resemblance of concrete connections that the group had made.
So that it wasn't just individual groups with this, we were putting together a picture of the whole future.
It was a good angle, a different angle to see it visually rather than hearing it in an oral presentation or through a PowerPoint or through a Word document.
But the problem was that it wasn't very organized.
And it just started to become a mess. The whole screen was cluttered up with different lines, different bubbles, and it was just too much.
So from the mind mapping phase, we eventually put it on the Excel document, and that's where we really organized our ideas and thought about what the next steps were.
In the end, we realized mind mapping didn't really work.
You know, everything that we've done so far has some type of success, even if it hasn't brought us to where we thought that we would end up being.
Failure is only failure if you don't take something away from it. But with this, we took something away and realized how connected we all really were.
So throughout the journey of Ideas and Trends, we went through the trial and error process multiple times, and it was no different when it came to the presentation.
When we finally decided to prepare for the actual presentation, we weren't sure where we were going to go.
First, we split off into two groups, the oral presentation group and the video group.
Our group finally realized the importance of creating a decision-making doctrine, which ruled the group dynamic.
There were things that all of us needed to come to a consensus on.
But what we knew and what we were lacking after arguing so much was that we didn't have a story. We didn't have that personal aspect that we could relate what we learned this year as sophomores to just an ordinary person and not just business executives.
Once these set of rules were in place, we could finally start moving in the right direction as a team.
We were really able to go back into our groups and have a better understanding of what the vision is for the entire presentation.
We knew we needed to decide what our story was going to be and what type of presentation format was going to best illustrate our story.
We're dealing with a bunch of executives who worked a long day, and we wanted a way for this to really stick with them.
We were able to develop the concept that we really only wanted two main sections.
We knew that we wanted two items, a presentation and a video.
This new development came as a result of heated debate.
Keeping an open mind and listening to everybody's ideas was critical.
The presentation would allow us to interact with the council, while the video would tell the story about every decision that we made.
We were able to come together and agree that the best option involved utilizing all our assets.
The most important part was the ability to take one person's idea, build upon it, and transform it.
We determined our own end result rather than have this end result given to us. That probably was the biggest challenge in this entire process, and we managed to overcome it pretty well.
Ideas and Trends taught us not to be passive citizens of our community and the world.
I now realize that there's potential in every idea, and changing the world involves acting on that potential.
One of the key takeaways that I got from the experience was to just keep going and don't use what you don't know to stop you from doing what you need to do.
I used to have the mindset that I'll just take the future as it comes to me, but now I've started to realize that I really need to start preparing for the future, even though I might not know exactly what's going to come.
Ideas and Trends taught me to take the initiative. When posed with a task, to just step up and do it.
Looking back on it, I really feel like there was a lot that we learned. A lot of valuable lessons came from Ideas and Trends.
When we first got the project and we were being told that first week of September, my first reaction was, what is going on? What are we doing here?
Ideas and Trends was a difficult task.
We definitely butted a lot of heads.
All of us came in very confident, assuming we could easily handle just another school project.
We learned how to work in a group, work in a team, meet deadlines.
Learning about other people's opinions really helped us to bond with each other.
Once we got our feet wet, everything just went smoothly. We were able to put together, one of the best projects I think I've ever worked on.
And its purpose was to expand how you think about different topics.
It was also going to put us ahead of all the competition of business students that we were going to have.
We'll be able to think, what's going on in 10 years? What are we going to be dealing with in a new climate?
Ideas and Trends is a unique opportunity that not everyone gets.
We had to work as a team, and we had to think differently to see what was beyond the mountain in the next 10 years.
It taught us to be active listeners and learners who can take ideas and from those ideas extract trends based on the connections of those ideas.